Hi, everybody. Okay, we're good. I'm on. No problems this time. How is everyone? Oh, Pat, you're so sweet. That's what I think of you. Hi, Melinda. Hi, Pat. It's nice to see everyone. So, Friday the 13th. Hi, everyone. It's Kathleen from Canada. I discovered work when I searched on YouTube. I had this. Oh, you are so sweet, Kathleen. So here we are. Hi, Beth. How are you from Illinois? Gosh, so many of us are in. I think there's a resurgence of lockdown. New York City is holding steady at under 3% infection rate, but oh my gosh. So anyway, I thought Friday the 13th. Hi, Debbie. Why not do a live stream? And I don't know where my kitty is, being a black kitty. So excuse me, as I was thinking about the live stream, and I was thinking, well, what could I talk about? And I thought, well, I'm feeling really stuck with this piece, and so why not just talk about that? Because that's certainly something that I think many of us go through, especially when you're dealing with a piece of blank cloth. Hi, Deborah. And then you're sort of feeling like, well, now what? So, couple things. Thumbs up, everyone, if you can. It helps me with YouTube and the algorithms and all that stuff. And you hit the little thumbs up button, and that helps me out, which in turn helps all of you because I can keep doing these. And all right, so I am going to turn the camera around, and I'm going to get my lighting going so that my work is lit. And thank you, Alki, who is in the Netherlands, everyone. And probably, I don't know if you had to set an alarm clock or not, but I so appreciate you being here. All right, I'm turning you around. All right, we're getting a little studio view here. I had my book here because I'd never heard of a smocker's knot. I didn't get around to trying it. I'll just tell you right now, in case any of you were thinking, oh good, she's going to show us how to do a smocker's knot. Nope, not this time. All right, so I'm going to put that away. I've got to pull my lighting over. And let's see, over here. Turn this other one off. And let's get this over and this one. Okay, here we go. All right, so the bigger view is this. So here it is. Hi, Denny. Denny from New Zealand. Denny's our den mother. So if anyone needs, like, a reminder, she's on it. So here's my piece. And as you'll see, there's lots going sort of this direction, like a rake, right? And that's because the striations in the cloth, right? I was sort of following these striations. But what starts happening is it's looking really, this way. And that's fine, but there needs to be some roundness now, because too much of this is, there's our kitty, is going to not create a lot of interest. So I decided to put this here. This is cheesecloth that I had some raspberries that were going bad, so I stuck them into I stuck them in a bowl, and I took my cheesecloth and I stuck it in the raspberries, and I think I might have added some beet juice. I can't remember, and I didn't write it down. Anyway, it kind of gave me this sort of this, whatever that is. Then I have some more here. This is cheesecloth that I actually painted with different, you know, those, I did a video on this, but I'll just show you these, right? Remember when for those of you who saw me do that, it's a video, I think I call it something about t-shirts to create interest. Then what I did was I took a chalk pencil and I drew some very light lines, and you can see maybe, so I did one here, I did another over here, and another over here, and I added another little bit of cheesecloth over here, and then I took some silk ribbon and I made some of those ribbon roses just to adhere it, and I tacked it down with a running stitch. So I'm feeling a little better, and now I have this, which I've put in here, and I think I'm actually going to add perhaps another color, a kind of green, sort of a muddy green, also in this kind of rounded shape. I might do a couple of them. I even drew, if you can see that, a chalk pencil here and another one kind of going off into this darker area. I've never done that on the linen. You know, I'm really new to all this linen work, relatively new. And you know, the first linen piece I did was my rock gardens pouch, right? This one. And that was the first time I had worked on linen. So yeah, so I'm new to all this, and I'm kind of figuring it out as I go. But for a piece this large, and it's, you know, I'm putting the camera up now so you can see how big it is. It's what, about, I don't know, 20 inches over this direction and something close to that in the other direction. Okay. So I was feeling really stuck, and I had been using this to show different things. So I did a video on ribbon floss, and I showed all the different ways you can use ribbon floss. For those of you who saw that, you know, I showed how to wrap one of these wooden beads, and then I decided to make big bullion tendrils. I did a pearl stitch in the ribbon floss. Someone asked me to do a video on cast on bullion roses, and so I was practicing, and of course then I forgot to make a video, so I'm sorry for whoever asked that. I will get to it. This is turkey work done in the ribbon floss, and I actually like it. It shredded all up, and then I added some drizzle stitches. So anyway, I've been doing stuff and playing, but as I said, there was just this kind of rake-like motion that I started to feel was kind of taking over, and I really, really needed some rounded shapes. So the first thing about feeling stuck, and you guys can all, you can all chat and tell me the things that you face when you feel perhaps a little stuck or fearful, or you're unsure of where you're going with something. But for me, the first thing I have to do is identify what the problem is. And I knew that my problem that I was having was that this kind of motion, this kind of slanted, but mostly straight motion. And I knew that there had to be some rounding going on. So one way to do that, of course, is to do stitches. Couldn't see the turkey work. I've ordered some scrim. Okay, here is the turkey work. This is in the ribbon floss. So I just kind of fiddled with it and kept, so you can see the ribbon floss there, right? And then I just kept kind of playing with it, and it totally unraveled. And isn't it pretty? Because painter's thread, they do such a gorgeous job with the colors, I think, those variegated colors. Anyway, so that's that. So I had to, think about where I was going. So, as I said, one way is to do stitches that are round for sure, but I needed something bigger. And that's when I went ahead and did this big piece, which I took silk ribbon and I did 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of running stitch. I'll probably add a 5th row down here. And now I'm going to keep going. And when doing free motion quilting of a large blank area, I divide, then conquer each area separately. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good technique for sure. What I was feeling was that as a piece, I had to, I needed to look at it as the whole piece. When I did the other piece, the Olia piece, which is, I'm going to turn you up so you can see it, is this kind of olive piece. That one I definitely did in that way that you're talking about, Pat. I sort of took sections, and I just worked on them, and then I added and I created. Do you see how much roundness there is in this piece? So I have an area here that's kind of round. I have this whole area, which is sort of roundish. I have this area that's kind of round. And then I have these circled areas that are also round, which is breaking up the striations that you're seeing occur in the hand dyed. And I think one of the things that I talked about in another live stream was this idea that I don't want anything to dictate to me. You know, nothing's going to be the boss of me, right? I'm not going to let the linen tell me what I should do. And I think one of the problems I was having was that I was allowing it to kind of dictate a bit too much. And I was getting caught up in these very dark areas and following them exactly and kind of forgetting the bigger picture, which is, how is this going to look as a big piece? So I had to take that and reevaluate what I was doing and where I was going to go. And I knew that I needed more cheesecloth. So I had this sort of piece that was again mimicking these striations, and I knew I had to change it. And I wanted something big and I wanted something round. In another video, I talked about some design elements, right? You don't want all of your shapes to be the same, because that's going to get, the tendency is for that to get, all right, let me rephrase this. It's fine to have shapes that are all the same, but for when doing this kind of what I'm calling improvisational stitching, that's sort of a term I just thought up this morning as I was writing some copy for my website. If you're doing improvisational stitching, then having the same shape repeated over and over, that's fine for a section, but to have the whole huge piece done that way is not going to be what I want. And so I like to change it up. So I want to make sure that, so I have a piece of cheesecloth here that's kind of it is a roundish shape. I have my cheesecloth here, which is much more mimicking these striations in the hand dyed. And then I have this really big round shape of the cheesecloth. And then I threw in one more that's kind of something else. They're all different sizes. So I want the shapes to be slightly different. I want the sizes to be slightly different. Now, that doesn't mean that I never am going to repeat anything. I might, because repetition is also really interesting in a certain area. So, for instance, if I wanted to just do dozens and dozens of these, I could, and that would be kind of cool looking. Or over here, where I do these kind of clusters of stitching, you know, that's interesting. So, but when I'm stuck, I ask myself a couple of questions. Do I have interest aesthetically? Is my eye moving? And before I added this piece, the answer was no. The eye was all here. It was all going in the same direction, and I needed to change it up. So that was sort of, I didn't have to ask a lot more questions because I kind of knew right then and there what was going on and what my issues were, and that if I could fix that, then I could move on. I had a place to sort of work from. When I was just working here, I kind of kept feeling like I don't know where to go. So I really was feeling entrenched in this area and feeling I didn't have a lot of good ideas. All right, so this is a soft cotton, a painter's thread. I just threaded it up on a tulip Milner's, and my hands are dyed from some paint. I was doing some paint, painting some t-shirt fabric. In any case, I put it on a Milner's, not because I had an idea of what I was doing, but because if I use a Milner's and thread whatever I'm using on a Milner's, then I have the possibility of doing a stitch that should be on a chenille, but I also can then do a wrap. Whereas if I choose a chenille, I'm not going to be able to do a wrap successfully. And I have this idea that I want this area to be darker. Even though I only have a few dark striations here, I've done my chalk line here, and I want some darkness in here. So the first thing to do is for me to just start somewhere. And it doesn't really matter what stitch I use. It can be anything. So let's see, what should I do? I think I will do, I could do a series of bullion knots, or I could do maybe I do a feather stitch here. And I do a whole area that's covered in a feather stitch. Now, the feather stitch, when I'm doing this kind of stitching, this sort of improvisational stitching, I'm not going to worry about it going in a particular direction. I'm going to kind of go all over the place. So I guess it's less a feather and more just using the concept of the feather stitch, but going in all different directions. And I have this idea that I'm going to cover a whole area using this thread and varying the space. So I'm not, as you can see, I'm not following, I'm not doing a typical feather. I mean, this is kind of all over the place, right? And that's okay. And maybe I'll do some of it smaller and some of it larger. And maybe I'll come in with another color even, and mimic it, echo it, like you do in quilting, free motion quilting. You can echo a shape. So this is some holes from I was doing a satin stitch with another, thank you, Pat. I was doing, I had a piece of t-shirt here, and I just took that out. When I start to feel like I want to start ripping stuff out, that's an indication to me that I'm getting, I need to reevaluate what I'm doing. And so that was how I'd been feeling, like I'm just going to start ripping stuff out. I don't like this. And sometimes ripping stuff out is actually a good way to go. I'm not saying that it's not. Sometimes ripping out is exactly what I needed to do. But other times it's good to just see if there's somewhere else you can go with the whole thing before you start ripping out. And then after I do this, well, maybe I'll still decide to rip stuff out, and that's okay. You know, I'm good at ripping out, Jean. Well, we're sisters in crime, Jean, because me too. I rip out a lot. When I first started doing this, I was ripping out probably more than I kept, and that was just the way it was. That's okay. So here's my kind of, I don't know what this is, meandering feather. And I'm just going to keep doing this. And then I think what I'll probably do is I might just come back in with, if someone asks, when you rip out, do you preserve the thread or cut it out? Sandy, I hate to tell you, I used to keep all my thread scraps, and I had a little bucket, and I would put all the thread scraps in, and they just kept gathering and gathering. And then occasionally I would look at them. This is soft cotton, yes. Every now and then I'd look at the thread scraps and I'd think, okay, well, I need to do something with them. But they were, maybe this long, or, if they were longer, then I would try to, maybe do a couple of French knots or use them for something. But after a while, it just became this kind of rat's nest. And I thought, I'm just going to throw these out. And I did. I just threw them all out. Now, I know other people who use thread scraps for stuffing, and they're very creative with what they do. So I am not saying don't save your thread scraps. I hate to waste it. I know. Be able to buy more, Sandy. I totally understand. I get it. And I do. I feel a little, my heart breaks a little bit each time I throw stuff out. I'm going to show you my little basket here. So there's my little scraps, but I mean, what am I going to do with this? This is not, I can't do anything with that. And then I have this. Well, this is more. I could probably do something with that. Maybe I'll pull this out now, because now I'm feeling guilty. Save it. But there it is. Ugh. And then I used to do that with fabric too. Did all of you do that? Tearing my Sandy, you're not weird. I totally get it. Make fabric with the scraps. See? There. And you absolutely should. It's just I don't. So, yeah. That's kind of how that goes. Okay. So I've done a bit here, and I can keep going. I can keep, I could keep doing this kind of for this whole area here that I've marked out. And since it's such a big piece, I would be spending an hour just filling this whole area with this. And maybe what I do is I don't keep going with this thread. I think now I might come in with a lighter weight thread, and then, as I said, echo it. And I think I'll do that, since all of you are patiently waiting for me to do something perhaps a bit more interesting. And I can just keep this threaded. A boundary, exactly. Yeah. And I'm going to just anchor my thread there. And now I'm going to come out. Merlin is so unhappy with me. I don't know if all of you saw my post that I posted on Instagram, but this is his bowl, and look what I did. I filled it with thread. And Richard, my husband, said, Merlin's so unhappy. He looks really depressed. And I said, well, look at what I did. I filled his bowl with threads. And he said, he's just sitting underneath a table with his head down. Hi from Scotland. And so he literally is sort of moaning about, mooning about, very upset. But what can I tell you? I had to pull my threads for this. All right. So I'm going to now come in with something different. And maybe I come in with something different I need a few more baskets, Sandy. I do. And I don't know if I had mentioned this to someone who asked where I got the baskets. There's this lovely man who is sells his wares. His family makes these baskets in Senegal, and he sells them on Fifth Avenue on the weekend. And so I bought two, but the other one's full of my other threads for my other project. So there's that. But they're big baskets. See how big they are? Look. I mean, here's my hand. That's a big basket. Obviously, I should have bought 3 or 4. I'll have to go back. He's so sweet, and I feel so happy that I'm helping his family in Senegal. So, okay, leave one empty. Love them. New toy per week. Exactly. So, oh, and we have some French speaking people in the group. I love it. Wonderful. Okay, so I think actually I like this. What do you all think? I'm thinking, here's Silk and Pearl, and I could start pulling out my House of Embroidery, but that's a whole rabbit hole. I'm actually thinking either this one or this one. So I'm going to let you guys tell me which one. This Silk Gimp or the Silk and Pearl. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mimic, I think, use both. Sandy. Oh my gosh. You guys. Pink one. The pink one. Is that this? The Dusty Rose? Okay. The Silk Gimp. See? Everyone's giving. All right. Well, that's what happens. Let's see. Use both. Pat. You're the people that when I go shopping, and I'm saying, all right, I can only get one of these. Which one should I get? And everyone chimes in, get both, and you end up spending a fortune because that's the kind of friends you are. You're the get both of them ones. I get it. I'm like that too. All right, the Dusty Rose, and then I'm going to come in. We live through you. Oh, Sandy. So I am going to save my Silk Gimp I'm going to come in with this doing something else. I'm not putting that away, but I am going to thread up a chenille, if I can. The chenille 24 can be a little tricky for the Silk and Pearl to thread, because the Silk and Pearl is between a 5 weight and an 8 weight. It's actually not a 5 weight and it's not an 8 weight. It's just in between. It's a little heavier than the 8 and a little thinner than the 5. I love the Silk and Pearl. This is the Thread Gatherer Silk and Pearl. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sort of echo maybe, but maybe I'm going to keep it much smaller. And then am I going to go under here? See, I might go under here, and then I might go over in other places. But for this part, I'm going to go under, I think. Kind of like so. I should have done this first, obviously. You can thread without a threader. I can. I have threaders. I very rarely use them. I go into phases, sometimes I use them and then I get into the habit of using them and then I get out of the habit and I stop. And so this is the thing about Karen. Well, that didn't take much to be heroic, Karen, so I'll take it. But here's the thing about the improvisational. Found you on Patreon. I was watching from Facebook and couldn't see comments. Phew. Okay. So I'm glad you're here. So when you're doing this kind of improvisational stitching and you're not planning it out, my 24 seems so small. Exactly. And, every now and then I think maybe I should get my eyes checked. But then, So when you're doing this and you're not really thinking it through because it's an improvisation and you're not thinking it through, you're just kind of doing, you just have to be super flexible and kind of go with it. And so I should have, had I known I was going to do this, I would have done this first with the silk and pearl. I would have then come back with my pearl cotton, and then I wouldn't have had to go back and forth and under and all of that. You'll also see that I've kind of stopped going over here, so I'm going to come back around and do that. Doesn't it? It adds a little something, right? And so the good news is, so thank you, Pat. So the good news is I am not feeling stuck now, right? Because I've kind of made a decision. I've started to put some stuff down. It doesn't mean I'm not going to feel stuck later. But for right now, I have an idea of what I'm doing and I'm proceeding along. And that's really, the goal. Let me get to a place where I can do something and not feel that awful feeling of, oh no, what do I do? So I'm going to keep going with this. And let me just, there's that. And now I'm going to take this. Now, if you weren't watching, what I would have done, I would have continued with my soft cotton, which would have been a mistake because then I decided to come in. But now what I'm going to do after I turn this off, after we finished everything, I'm going to go back and I'm going to continue going along with this. And then I'm going to cover, I think this, my idea is I'm going to cover a nice section of this, like this whole area here and maybe this area here with this kind of look. It's like writer's block. Exactly. You just have to push yourself out of it. And now I'm going to come back. Thank you. I hope it will be cool. Now I'm going to come in with my silk gimp. And I'm going to, that is too tiny, take my little chenille 24. And I'm going to go ahead and see if I can thread that. Nope. All right, hang on. Sometimes I have to. Nope. Okay, now we're not going to spend a whole bunch of time on this. See, typically what I do is I get all these needles threaded up beforehand. And then we don't have to spend minutes in anxiety watching me. And I'm not going to bother doing a quilter's knot because, because this is so twisted and I find that kind of messes with it. So now I'm just going to play with this. Like, what would I do? I think, oh, and of course I did a chenille. Ugh, I should have done a Milner's. Well, I'm not going to rethread it. I'm going to do some French knots, I think. Now, this gimp can be a little challenging because it is such a twist. But let's see what I can do here. I kind of like the idea of putting this. So I'm not really thinking this through too much. I didn't have any kind of notion of, as when we started this, of what I was going to do or even what threads I was going to use. But now I'm thinking that this silk gimp is a nice little addition. Maybe I'll do a colonial knot and see what that looks like. Not that anyone is going to be able to tell the difference, but it's just fun to mix it up sometimes. And I'm going to go in here. I think I have to pull this down a little bit so you can see better. We told you so. What did you tell me? Have I missed part of this chat? Oh, you told me to use both. Is that what you mean? Yes, you did. See, and and I said no one's going to be the boss of me, and now I'm letting you guys be the boss of me, which is fine. It's a collaborative piece, right? So there we go. And I'm just going to keep going here with this. This is my new good idea, I think. And I'm feeling both threads. Exactly, Pat. You told me to use both threads, and I am. So I'm just going to keep going with this idea. And I'm not going to think about anything else right now. I'm not going to think about, oh, I don't know, maybe you've taken a wrong turn, because it's possible. Maybe I have. But I have to give it a chance. I have to really give this a chance. I have to make sure that before I move on and say, oh, this is terrible, I have to really do quite a bit of it. And chances are I won't think it's terrible. Now, whether I love it, that's a whole nother thing, right? So I'm going to anchor this now, and I think I'll go back to this. And I'm going to, and I don't have to just keep echoing. What constitutes terrible? Okay, so I'm going to tell you. I thought that well, I sort of love this, and this was a demonstration of the ribbon floss, but it's such a big thing. And it felt like just too much. And I did think I'm going to yank that out. And then this, I thought, well, now I get that I was demonstrating the ribbon floss again, but I thought, I'm not loving it. I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to pull this out. So I'm going to pull all this out. Maybe this too. This for sure. And then, what am I left with? Oh, and then this, I didn't like that so much. But now I'm feeling, I don't know, I'm going to leave it, and I'm going to keep doing this. And I'm not going to worry about all of that. You're pulling too many pretty things. I'm not going to pull any of it now. See, that's the thing. I'm not pulling any of it. But that was my first thought was, well, I think I'm going to start pulling stuff out. And then what happened was I thought, okay, I know myself well enough to know that when I start saying I'm going to pull stuff out, that's usually a pretty good indication that I'm not loving some aspect of this design-wise, that there's something wrong that needs to be looked at. And that was when I did my questioning. Okay, is it color? Color seemed okay, there was nothing screaming out, this is terrible. Although I have to say, this background linen has really messed with me. You can wait, then cut out small patches and sew them onto other fabric. There you go. That's like Pat has this toupee that she does, which is actually hilarious. Pat, was it any way you could fence in some of the first stitched area? Maybe. But what I was going to say was I'm not going to pull anything out, but I knew that I needed to ask some critical questions. And one of them was color. And what I've realized is I don't love this background color. It's just not a color that really speaks to me. And so that was part of the problem. I also find that it's difficult for me to find threads that I like to use with this color. It's like, it's not really a neutral, but it's not really a pink. It's kind of maybe a flesh color. I don't know. It's an odd color. And I just didn't, I don't know. I thought I liked it, obviously, when I bought it. No. And you're just feeling out of your comfort colors. Exactly. So I just had trouble with the color, and I think that was a lot of it. And then I thought, well, it's okay. Um, remember, I don't know, for those of you who were with me when I was talking about, I think it was a live stream that I did where I said I sort of did a challenge, which was to just grab a piece of fabric, any fabric, how to begin, right? That live stream. And this was the first fabric that was on the top. That linen randomly out of a basket, it was not a color you would have picked. It still seems to be the case. Sandy, that's exactly right. So that's the downside to doing a kind of challenge for yourself is, instead of picking the fabric that really sings and is calling your name, I picked this one. I don't care for this color, exactly. But I'm determined to make this work. So there you go. Now, either this is just sheer stubbornness and stupidity on my part, or I'm going to be able to make this into something that I actually like. And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that I can make this into something that I actually like. This is kind of fun and interesting, isn't it? So I'm liking this. Now, the other thing I can do, and I've already begun, is I can start covering a lot of this linen. I don't have to keep this linen. I can start, I can densely stitch it so that you don't really see too much of it. I can keep using different fabrics to apply on top of. Lynn, I will. Exactly. See, the capital letters in will is exactly right. I will do this. I will make it into something I like. And people were wearing the combo. So the pink shade with brown. Yeah. Beads, Denny, you read my mind. All right. So as I was going through my things, yes, I might put wool down. Here's my packs of beads. And I was thinking, well, I think adding some beads would be fun. So Denny just wrote beads, and I think I will. I think I'm going to add some beads. As far as wool goes, I could, and I might, and I thought of that as I was putting the cheesecloth down. Maybe I should put some wool in here. I haven't gotten that far. I was just at this point sort of desperate to get something down that I really liked, and so that's where this stitching came in. Let me just do something stitch-wise that I like. But yeah, I think wool might be interesting, and certainly I could stuff it, I could do stuffed shapes of wool. I could also, all right, so you see what I did there, right? I'm just kind of going off now, and that's fine. I'm using this, and I'm sort of starting as an echo, and then I'm gonna go and kind of go off on my own here. It just feels like this thread sort of is saying, we need to go somewhere on our own now, little independence. So I'm going to listen to that, and I'll keep going here. What I like about this silk and pearl is how nicely it's matching this background, but there's a variegation to it, and there's sort of this gray, blue-gray, and some other colors in here that I like. Very loose scrap threads under. Oops, that chat went away. What did you use to dye the green cheesecloth? I really like the vibrant pink rose and dark green against the salmon. Okay, this I used those sticks, these water-soluble pastels. I just drew on it, and then I let it dry, and that's it. I don't even wait, Denny. I like that idea. What did I miss? What's the idea, Denny? Tell me again. You have to see, that's the problem. If I'm talking away and then you guys are chatting, I don't get to see it, and then I'm missing out. Denny, are you able to copy and paste what you wrote that everyone's thinking is a great idea? I need great ideas. Sometimes I feel like I'm all out of great ideas. And now Denny's quiet, of course. You know, she's like that. All right, so there I go. Now, that's our phone. We have a landline. And the only reason we keep this landline, we never answer it. And the only reason we keep it is because when 9/11 happened, all of our cell phones stopped working. And the only way all of our family members who were terrified and worried for us could get through was on the landline. And so we keep a landline, bury loose scrap threads under the scrim and stitch mysteriously, Denny's. Oh, I love that. And then just sort of randomly stitch, right? Okay, so I was just telling you about our landline, which is just ridiculous. So we pay, you know, I don't know, $80 a month to have a landline on the off chance that there's ever going to be another attack. I should knock on wood, hoping there never is, of course. All right. So someone just called me on the phone and I got cut off from all of you. All right. Keep the landline. I know. My husband wants our landline for when the big quake hits here in California, right? I know. You know, I grew up in California. I meant to ask, when you dyed the cheesecloth, what did you use to dye the green? Okay, so Pat, what I told Sandy when she asked was I used those Neocolors, these, to dye the cheesecloth. And Bobby, I have a landline too. See, all of us, so many of us have landlines, and I bet do you even use your landline, Bobby? Probably not. I mean, it's so bad we don't even answer it. Same here in this shaky country. I know. Well, there you go. All right, so, and you do too, Belinda. Okay. So I'm not alone. Lots of us are using CVS uses mine only to call Canada. Yeah, we never use our landline, and we never use it for international calls either. We use our cell phones. So now I'm going to do more of this. You know, I'm starting afresh. Oh, Pat, thank you. I did answer her, though. Not sure what happened to my lighting. Did my lighting did the light change on you when you were watching? It suddenly got very dim. Not sure what's happening here. Really old one is an ornament. There you go. I know my children have never seen a dial face on a phone. I mean, they would look at it and not even know what it was. We just got rid of our landline about 2 years ago, but my in-laws still have one. We kept ours because our whole area had an ice storm back in 2006. Where are you? Where are you? An ice storm. Everything froze for a few seconds. Okay. That was because someone was calling me, and I had to decline it, but instead of declining it, my whole screen went to the phone call. St. Louis. Oh, yeah. All right, so I'm back to my, you know, my feather stitch. And as I wrote, I'm not really doing like a so traditional of a feather. Well, that one kind of is. I'm kind of doing like two close together, and I'm going to meet up with this one, and then I'm going to go in a totally opposite direction here now. I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to go under here. Fisher-Price phones, right? Those toy ones that they played with. Exactly. They'll think it's a toy, though. All right. I mean, I didn't even grow up with computers. I remember having a computer class in middle school, I think, and thinking, well, I hope this is a fad that goes by quickly because it was so awful. I couldn't understand it. And it was that, you had to put in code and remember that? And those computers were huge. That was right around the time that they were threatening us with, we're going to do the, we're going to go decimal, which, by the way, I wish we had, but I also remember thinking, ugh, no. Okay. And now, of course, the whole world is decimal except for us, and it would be much easier. All right, I'm going to, let's see, what am I going to do now? I'm sort of caught myself in a corner here, chattering away. So Granddad, what's that? Exactly. And I'm going to come out here. So anyway, you get the idea. I'm going to cover this area with this, and then I'm going to come back with this darker, and I'm going to do some lines. I'm really loving the meandering coral seaweed. Repeat some dark, exactly. Bullion knots. Beth, are you saying bullion knots in this silken pearl? I could certainly do that. And then I think as, Beth's point, of let's mix it up maybe and doing some other stitches is a good one, because I think that there's certainly it's fun to sort of keep to one stitch for a while, but at a certain point it's nice. Just thinking they would look interesting. I agree, Beth. I think it would be nice to have a whole cluster, really. So here I'm just kind of going around and around, doing a blanket stitch, really, to do kind of a cluster of bullion knots in a different thread. I mean, I could do them in this thread as well as some other threads. And I think I will do that. But as I said, I also don't want to, I like to keep going with an idea as far as I can take it, and then, or until my thread runs out, whichever goes first. But there we go. Now, I haven't dealt with this, and I definitely want to do something here, but I'm not sure what. I'm also going to now sort of evaluate this, like how much of this dark do I want? This is safe. I could cover this whole area with that color and it wouldn't make a difference. It would be fine. This, I have to be careful. It's so dark, and I want to make sure that I don't, I just have to be aware of it. I have to keep it in mind, and I have to keep looking at it in relation to everything else. Do I want a whole dark area here? Maybe I just want a whole dark area kind of here, and then have this. Okay, Denny, fixing the water tank. All right. Thanks for stopping by, Denny. I'm glad you were here. So, that's how I'm thinking. I'm thinking continue with the silken pearl. Maybe do some bullion knots in here. Maybe do a few more of this. Maybe just in this one area. I kind of like the idea of it sort of going down in a kind of arc like this. So, could you add feather and dark into the cheesecloth? Yes, absolutely, I could. And actually, I think that's probably a really good idea. Just having it go maybe into this area, and then this area, which is lighter, doing something else. Maybe I do lots of French knots and bullion knots in here. So that's it. Would love to see some French knots from both colors into the cheesecloth. Yes, I think that's a good idea. So, we've done One more dark line of feather. I think what I'm going to do, Pat, is I'm going to use the dark thread, and I'm actually going to do a little bit of an arc here so that it fans out and it fills this area. And I think I'm going to do this lighter in this whole area. And I think I'm going to do some maybe bouillons in here, meandering. And I think I am going to take that suggestion of going into the cheesecloth into this whole area here with the dark, as well as maybe some light. And then exactly, it mimics that, which is nice, especially if it's not the same exact shape, it's much bigger. So the point is, I have a plan now, right? Whereas I didn't this morning. I just sort of felt some dread. Now I have a plan. I also like this little circle part, so I may do something there to emphasize that little circle and keep actually that area bare. So if you can believe it, we have been doing this for 55 minutes, almost an hour. How quickly the time goes, right? And of course, after I say goodbye to all of you, I'll keep going and I'll spend another hour and do all this. And but that's how quickly the time flies. It does not feel like we've been doing this for almost an hour. So thanks to all of you for coming. Don't forget, for those of you who can on YouTube, give me that thumbs up, hit that thumbs up button. That would be great. And it helps me with YouTube's algorithms. And I'm so glad you all came to watch, and I appreciate it. And until next time, so happy stitching, everyone. And thanks so much. Bye-bye.